Today on the podcast, I have two special guests. Megan Penrod and Laura Hillesheim are the brains behind Developing Readers Academy. Megan and Laura met when they were working as reading specialists together in a school in Minnesota, and they went on a deep dive into the science of reading when they were reviewing the data of their students and seeing that they weren't making the progress that Megan and Laura knew they should be making. They've both been trained in LETRS as well as orton-gillingham, and they have expertise working with students with learning disabilities such as dyslexia, as well as other diagnoses like autism and ADHD. Megan and Laura have a phenomenal Instagram page as well as a YouTube channel where they share tips for families to help their kids at home, as well as super fun videos for kids. Kids can watch their videos and just feel the love and joy Megan and Laura have for teaching. If you want to connect with Megan and Laura, please make sure you check out all the links below. They have a program online called Aspire that can help your struggling reader. And I hope you take away some valuable points from this episode, knowing that your child can absolutely learn how to read, even if it's a struggle for them now. Megan and Laura will show you how to teach them correctly and effectively. All right, Megan and Laura, welcome to the Little Love Learning Podcast.
Thanks for having us. This is so fun.
Yes, thank you.
I am so excited. It's my first time having two guests on because you are the co-founders of Developing Readers Academy. So I would love to hear about this journey, how you both became teachers and how you came to do what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is Megan, by the way. I know it's people listening in. I became a teacher because since day one, I was like 4 years old and I was like, Mom, I'm going to be a teacher one day. She's like, okay, honey. Got me my little chalkboard and I would put my stuffed animals out and I would teach to my stuffed animals. So since I was little, this is all I have ever wanted to do. And I got the pleasure of teaching in a classroom for 5 years and then as a reading specialist for 5 years. And that's where I met Laura. We were reading specialists at a school together. And we had our highs and our lows as reading specialists. Before I get into that, Laura, do you want to say kind of your background coming up?
Yeah, so I also wanted to be a teacher from a very young age, loved babysitting, working with kids, all of that stuff. And then, yes, I was a reading interventionist for 11 years, and I taught in a regular classroom in first grade for 1 year. And Megan and I believe, worked together for 4 years.
I
maybe?
think 5.
5 years? Okay.
Something there.
So fast when you're having fun.
That is
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah, we had, like I said, we had ups and downs in our school, and we were watching as reading specialists, reading interventionists, as too many kids were falling through the cracks in the system. We had more kids on our list of who we were supposed to help than we had time in the day. And that's when we kind of started getting creative, like, well, what can we do? We want to make this difference. We're passionate about the science of reading. We're passionate about teaching kids in a way that actually works. And Laura came up with the idea of like, hey, why don't we like teach kids online? Why don't we like try this out? And we jumped in. We loved it. We have been out of the classroom for 2 years now. This is our second year where we've been full-time in developing readers. And yeah, we've helped over 2,000 families so far in counting. And it's just the dream. We are living the dream where we're actually getting kids reading, making parents feel secure in the choices they're making, and being able to do it at home in our pajamas sometimes. It's kind of nice too.
Wow, what a journey for both of you. And to have connected when you were at school is such a gift. When you have a co-teacher who you absolutely click with, it's just magic.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
Now, I know that you specialize with struggling readers and you know a lot about dyslexia. So I would love for you to share more about dyslexia because there's a lot of myths that go around the internet about what it is and what it isn't. And so I would love a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we still would hear teachers coming up and saying to us as reading specialists, oh, they're writing their letters backwards. They might be dyslexic. And we're like, it doesn't always have to do it. I think that's still such a big myth that people believe it has to do with seeing things backwards. And it's really more neurological in their brain, phonological processors, all these things are going on. What to know for parents, I think that's important, is that it's very common. 1 in 5 humans are said to be dyslexic. So it is very common. and that you can get it tested as early as 5.5. So if your child has had at least 6 months of direct instruction and they don't seem to be getting their letters, their phonemic awareness is a little tricky. For some kids, they were late talkers. There's different indicators. Um, yeah, you can be in kindergarten and start the testing, because the earlier you can get your child tested and identified, the earlier you can get the right interventions in place. And our brains, it's kind of like our brains are like cement. Wet cement, when you're younger, is much easier to mold. It's much easier to kind of do some of that rewiring than if we wait till later. If we wait, they're going to have harder cement brains, and it's harder to give them those rewirings in their brain that they need for those foundational reading skills. So the earlier we can intervene and give them that explicit instruction in reading, the better it's going to be for your child. So a lot of kids, they're not identified until 3rd grade, and that's edging that where it's like it's going to be harder and harder for them to catch up. And now all of a sudden you have self-esteem issues going on too, right alongside the skill issues. So if anything, for parents, I would say if you have any concerns, it doesn't hurt to talk to the teachers, to talk to your pediatrician, and just make sure everything is good.
Absolutely. I would love for parents to focus on prevention before intervention,
Good.
but if
Yes.
there is a problem, the earlier intervention, the better.
100%. I'm with you.
So, what are some ways that parents can work with their kids at home? Let's start from the very beginning to hopefully prevent any reading struggles. What are some ways we can lay that foundation correctly?
Absolutely. So from babyhood, from like in the bellyhood, talk to your kids. Like talk to them, give them that oral language where they're learning new words, where you're being curious with them, you're asking questions. All of these things are they're paving the way for stronger reading later on in life. So it can be so simple when they're young. It can be playing with words out loud, just fun. I know my daughter, she just turned 4 yesterday. So she's still young,
Ah,
but we've
happy
been
birthday.
doing, I know, but we've been working on like, hey, I see a b e. What's that word? A bee. There's a bee. Let's go see it. So just kind of playing with words, listening for sounds, all that stuff can be done in a preschool setting. Even with babies, you can be working on new words and all that fun stuff. And that's just giving them that foundation where they're going to be ready to take off. And Laura, I'm sure do you have anything else to add to there?
I was just going to say the big part that we often hear that's missed is parents are very aware that going into kindergarten, their child is going to be learning their letters, learning letter names, learning letter sounds, writing letters. But the piece that's equally important and oftentimes is missed is those phonological awareness skills. So, hearing the first sound in a word, breaking the sounds apart in a word, blending the sounds, like Megan gave the example with b, e, b. So really working on some of those things too are going to be just as important and just as much of a foundational skill as the letter recognition piece.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I know when I was going through school to become a teacher, I'm not sure about your programs, I did not learn about phonological awareness and phonemic awareness.
Nope.
This was all new to me when I came into the science of reading. So I can only imagine how parents feel not having any idea that this is important.
100%. I know I taught kindergarten, and all we did was rhyming. That was the only thing I was in our curriculum was just do rhyming, just do rhyming. Rhyming's fun and great, but that's not the essential. The essential is being able to hear the sounds and the words. So yeah, I'm with you 100% on that.
And luckily, things are changing with your Instagram
Yes.
and we're sharing lots of tips online. How did you both come into the science of reading? So you didn't learn about it in your teacher programs. Was it while you were reading specialists in your school?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I wouldn't say funny. I should take back the word funny. We went the first 2 years we were teaching together. We were looking over our data. It was the end of our second year working as reading interventionists, and we go, man, we're not making a difference in these kids' lives. This was pre-science of reading. We were just kind of pulling games. There was no set direction. And then something came up where, hey, we have this letters training coming up over the summer. Anyone interested will pay for it. The school district will pay for it. It was the first cohort in Minnesota. That's where we are. And me and Laura instantly went, yes, like we're looking at our data. We need to grow and learn because we're missing a lot, clearly. So we went through letters training for those 2 years. It was phenomenal. and it really got us obsessed with the science of reading. Like it was the starting, and then we just kind of on our own bootstrapped so many different. We did Orton-Gillingham training. We did um, all the books that you could possibly read on it. The two of us just keep going. Um, and we started to see almost instant change in our students' data. Like when we started making these shifts to explicit teaching versus like kind of just random things, man, did kids start taking off. It was incredible.
What a shift. And how open you both were to learning something new. I appreciate that because I know there are some teachers who get a little defensive when we discuss new ways of teaching, for example, sight words or
Mhm.
just new ways of doing things. And they say, I've always done it this way works, I'm not changing. And so for you two to be so humble and say, something's not working and I'm going to take responsibility for this. I'm not blaming the kids. It's not the kids' fault. I'm going to go learn a new way. And then you were able to find success.
Mhm. And once we learned that, we couldn't sit on it anymore. Like this, it started, our Instagram started just us wanting to share because we knew all this stuff that we saw so many teachers didn't know it. And we're like, we need to spread this for our children, for this next generation. They need this. So it was a big motivator for both of us.
Absolutely. And your Instagram is almost 100,000 followers, which is bananas that teachers are now getting followers in the
It's amazing, right?
100,000s.
It's
Some
amazing.
teachers have a
Yes.
million. I
I
mean,
know.
just goes to show that parents want this information.
Yes.
And many of us didn't learn to read this way. I know I didn't learn to read through phonics. What about you two? Did either of you learn this way?
I don't know. I honestly couldn't tell. For me, I was one where I've always loved school. So it
Mhm.
just was my happy place. So it did come pretty easily for me. I remember my brother really struggling. And it was always kind of like, why does my older brother really struggle? I would read things for him for his homework assignments and things like that. So it was always that dichotomy. But I don't remember how I learned how to read. Isn't that bad?
Well, it came so naturally to you. If you struggled, I'm sure you would remember the
Exactly.
struggle. Yeah.
100%. 100%.
So maybe that's what we want for all our kids to not remember how they learned because it
Exactly. Like
comes
it's just
easily.
something you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Laura? Do you remember?
I don't. I remember doing a lot of the timed readings, the 1-minute readings, and kind of the pressure and anxiety around that. And I also love to read, and reading came easily to me. But just knowing that I still had that pressure and anxiety of, I need to read faster. And, the popcorn reading we would do all the time. And like, trying to read ahead, like, okay, what's my sentence going to be? I don't want to sound stupid in front of my friends. So I can only imagine, like, from a child's point of view who is struggling, like if I was feeling that anxiety, how
Mhm.
much more they were even
Mhm.
feeling it.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that's being eliminated from classrooms for the
100%.
most part. So
100%.
stressful.
Yep.
Now, when you share tips online on Instagram for your parent followers, I'm sure that they love to learn these phonics rules and then they can go home and teach their own kids. But some parents also would like you to teach their kids, and you have a wonderful program called Aspire. So I would love for you to talk about that.
Absolutely. Yes. This was Aspire is kind of like Laura and I have two of our own children. This is like our third baby that we've created. We're work wives, and this is our third baby because we've come together and put a lot of work and thought into it because we wanted an option for families that was actually going to get their kids on track, but in a way that is more accessible for families because we know that private tutors can be amazing, but they're also very expensive. They are, and not every family has the accessibility to a private tutor. And they're also not very flexible. And sometimes you only go once a week. So we saw all these gaps in the options out there, and we wanted to create something that was almost like best of both worlds. So it's flexible, you can do it whenever you want, 10 minutes at a time, but you're still getting the guidance and the support of reading specialists. So you're not off on your own like a nap. We wanted families to have that option to be completely comfortable and completely flexible, um, and bring as much of this explicit instruction, structured literacy, to families. Because the sad truth is, schools are making a good. I would say we're heading in the right direction, but it takes a long time for there to be true change in the system. Because, like you said, some teachers are very resistant. Some districts are still doing things they shouldn't be doing. So it might be another decade, 2 decades before things really feel different. The kids today don't have that time. So if we can get kids into our program, give them that structured literacy at home in a way where parents just have to click play, have your kids go through the lessons. We check in on you. We make sure you're on the right path. Then we can make a true difference in this world. Because I, to my core, believe literacy is what is at the foundation of our next generation, for our thinkers, our leaders, our innovators. They need literacy for that. So for us to have a better future, they need this. So we're just hoping to expand as much as we can, help as many families, as many children as we can, and really make a difference for the next generation.
And for those who can't see Megan right now, her shirt says literacy and justice for all, because
Yes.
literacy is a social justice issue. And that access you're talking about, not all students have the access to curriculums and teachers that are well trained in the science of reading. And you're providing that for everyone.
That is our goal. That is our goal with this.
Megan, I wanted to piggyback off that too. I was just going to say both Megan and I have neurodivergent children. So a big part of our program also is supporting those kids as well. Dyslexia, autism, ADD, SPD, all of those. Because with both of our kids, we have seen how vital and important early intervention is. We both have two very different experiences and how that happened for our kids and getting the services, but seeing the differences that it made us really want to make this easy for families and affordable for families to have their kids get that help that they need.
That's so important. And you make it fun. Your Instagram is so much fun. You have a YouTube
Yay.
page with Miss Buddy videos. I would love for you to talk to us about those and how you're able to just infuse joy and love into these videos. I can feel it when I watch them. I
Oh,
know
yay.
families and kids can feel it too.
That just seriously just made my day. Yeah, Miss Buddy is like the other half of me that I think is the better version of me. Maybe my kids would argue, "Mom, just be Miss Buddy." I I believe learning can and should be so much fun. It does not need to be this time of dreading it, of fighting, of battling. And especially if you're working at home, you have an extra layer of like, you know what, you don't need to follow a curriculum that's like dry by the book. You can incorporate what your kids love. You can bring in their toys. You can let them pick the stories that they want to listen to. It can be this time that everybody looks forward to. So I know Instagram, we started doing a lot of different activities and fun things and trying to just spice it up for families and for teachers. Just how can we get our kids engaged in this? Because it's true for all humans. When we enjoy doing something, we're going to want to do more of it. We're going to want to keep practicing. So if we can make it like that for our kids, especially the struggling readers, we're going to get so much better results. And then Miss Buddy comes in. You can see it on the YouTube where I just become the most ridiculous version of myself, because even if I can just get them looking at me like, who is this crazy lady? Like, they're going to learn something still then. I'm okay. My ego is not where I need to like be this. Laura's more normal than me. I'll just put that out there. She's
Megan
the
loves
normal one.
costumes to our
I love a
lives,
good
and the
costume.
kids
Yep.
just love it. And it's so fun too to see like how families take what we're teaching and kind of put their own spin on activities. They'll send us pictures and videos. We just got one this week from a family that was having their child write out their words on the beach in the sand. And it's just like so cool that they take these ideas and then just embed them into their everyday activities that they're doing. So that's really fun to see too.
That's amazing. And I just love that neither of you take yourselves too seriously. Just like
Oh,
when
no.
we're in the classroom, we can just let loose and have fun. And you
100%.
continue that online, which is not easy. Sometimes it's hard to show up online with all the eyes and all the opinions.
Yep.
But you guys just make it so much fun.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet.
So let's get a little tactical for parents who are listening. A lot of the parents are preschool parents or kindergarten parents, and maybe they're working on letters and sounds. And now they're trying to transition into blending. And we know that is a huge jump. There's a very big difference between knowing letters and sounds and being able to read words. So do you have any advice for those parents who are in that spot right now?
Absolutely. Laura, do you want to go first? Because I can.
Sure. Yes.
We can both talk a lot about this. So I'll let you go first on this one.
I know this is a skill my oldest child really struggled with a lot was the phonological awareness blending skills. He knew all his letters, but then putting the sounds together was so tricky for him. So what we recommend starting with first is just two sound words. So b, e, b, like Megan said. You can start with them just listening first if you want to, or you can have the letters there for them to see. My son also really likes to do it on his arm. So he'll touch his shoulder and then his elbow and then his hand for the three sounds. Or he's super busy. So sometimes I have him do almost like a head, shoulders, knees as he's blending to get him moving. But movement is a really helpful piece for kids, having little balls of Play-Doh and squishing the Play-Dohs for each sound is also a great tool for those little learners who aren't ready to use a utensil, writing utensil or things quite yet. So I don't know, Megan, if you want to add.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of when they're at the early stages, I would say a lot of the I do, we do, you do method is going to be great for our little ones. So if you're blending the word, we'll go with, I want to do a different one than be. What should I do? Me, I don't know. If you're doing the word dog, we'll do dog. If you're doing dog, you do it first for your child and say, okay, I hear the sounds d, ah, g, dog. Can we say the sounds together? And then you say it d, ah, g, dog. Can you say the sounds in dog? And kind of giving that gradual release of responsibility, all that fun teacher words, but kind of modeling it for them, doing it together so you know they're going to be successful and then they're going to be more confident trying it on their own. And then like Laura said, having like Play-Doh, pounding out the Play-Doh. I love adding letters whenever you can. So if you can have some magnetic letters out or something. They don't necessarily need to be writing them if they're younger than kindergarten. If you have a preschooler, they can do the magnetic letters and pull up the letters and then say each sound, blend them together. But I think that kind of I do, we do, you do is such a great way and a simple way that anyone can work on these, even with our youngest kids.
That's such a great point, the modeling. I think sometimes parents will ask their kids these questions and their child can't do it. And then the parent thinks they're doing it wrong, or maybe they're not ready for this, when really it's just the modeling. It's
Yep.
okay if they don't know it for the first few weeks.
100%.
They have no idea
100%.
how to blend these together. You blending it together is going to help train their brains to hear those different sounds.
Absolutely. Give them that confidence too of like, oh, I can do this. Look at this.
Yes.
This can be simple. So, yeah.
And that is true once we transition from those 2 sound words and 3 sound words to the 4 sound words. I was working with a kindergartner yesterday trying to hear the sounds in flip, and hearing that full at the beginning is really
Yes,
tricky. They all
it
want to
is.
skip that second sound. So it
Yes.
again goes back to that constant modeling of let's hear all the sounds in this word.
Yep. That it's funny how tricky blends are. Those can get, when you make that jump, it's like a whole new beast that you have to do. But then once they get it, then it feels pretty easy for them from there. So that's good. But
Yes. And we know that reading and writing go hand in hand. So I would love for you to talk about how you incorporate that in your program. Because I think a lot of parents will work on reading at home, but they
Mhm.
don't actually work on spelling or writing. And so, how would you recommend they work on that?
yeah, so those, I love this question because reading and spelling are very reciprocal. So if you're a better speller, you're going to be a better reader. If you're a better reader, you're going to be a better speller. And in fact, writing and spelling is the harder of the skills. So for most kids, if they can spell a word, they can read that word. So focusing on spelling the words out is actually going to give them a little bit of an advantage and save some time, because if they're able to think through, okay, I want to spell the word dog. I'm bad at coming up with words right now. Dog. I have to think through the sounds myself. D, ah, g. Now I need to think of the letters. So there's more steps in it than just reading the words. So in our program, we have it sectioned out where we explicitly teach them a skill per lesson, and then they write it first. So they're working on breaking it apart and writing it. And then we do the reading part. And that reading part is going to feel a whole lot easier after they've gone through and really thought through a bunch of words and written them down using the skill that they were explicitly taught. So that's the order we go. They teach a new one, new concept, write with that concept, read with that concept. And then it just flows really nicely into sentences and all that after that. But Laura, what else did I miss?
The multisensory piece is huge. We are all about that. We love the multisensory. My son's favorite video is when Miss Buddy is writing her letters in pudding, and then she eats the pudding off the plate at the end and gets all over her
I have it
nose.
all.
Yes, so we're all about the multisensory, so using more than one sense when practicing writing, especially for preschool and kindergarten. Like I mentioned, they're not always ready to hold that writing utensil. So having them just start with their finger and even writing on the back of their hand, or we use a furry pillow
Yep,
or
stuffed
pudding
animal.
or
Yep.
flower. I mean, literally anything. Um, makes that connection in the brain so much stronger as they're writing the letter and saying C spells K. They're making all those connections at the same time. They're feeling it with their finger as they're writing it. And we've had parents say that their child just loves it. They had to go out and stock up on pudding after that first video
You're
because
welcome.
the hit. So that multisensory piece is huge for the spelling and the writing, especially for those really early readers.
Oh, I cannot wait to show my son this video. He's in kindergarten and he is going to love watching Miss Betty
Oh,
spell in
yay.
pudding. That is so much fun. Now, another question that I wanted to ask you, or at least have you speak on, is this myth that reading comes naturally. And
Mm.
maybe parents are thinking, it's fine. My child's going to learn how to read. I'm not concerned. The school will teach them. Could you just speak a little bit about that and kind of bust that myth for us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I like the metaphor of learning to read is not like learning to speak. It's like learning to play the piano. That is the equivalent to it because we are born with a language part of our brain for speaking. And the vast majority of humans, they do just have to be spoken to speak. But to read, we need to make all these different connections in our brain. And if we think about trying to learn how to play the piano, you don't just listen to the piano. Wouldn't that be great though if we could just put on some Mozart and we can play Mozart? Not quite. You have to go to a teacher who's going to tell you, okay, this is middle C, and this is where middle C is, and this is what middle C looks like on a page. And that's just like reading. This is the sound. This is a k sound. This is how we form the k. It's like a C, and this is what it looks like on a page. So we're making these different connections between the sound, between what it looks like, all these different things. And then eventually you're going to learn another note and you're going to learn it explicitly. You're going to put the two notes together and then you're going to learn chords and you're going to put it together. And soon you're fluently playing a song on the piano. And it's the same with reading. We need to be building up explicitly teaching these skills so that we can make the connections in the reading brain because we do have to rewire. None of us are born with a brain that is ready to read. Otherwise, we'll have babies that are reading stuff. That'd be crazy. So
What a
we
great
have to,
comparison.
yeah, it's like the same thing, learning to read and learning an instrument or any skill really. We are learning a skill. I can't remember who said the quote that we have to painfully bolt on. Oh, I'm gonna butcher the quote. I shouldn't even try. Yep, never mind. I erased that. I said that there was something painfully bolting on all the skills for reading, something where it takes effort, it takes time, um, but it can be done. And we just have to make it fun and stick with it.
Yeah, that's a really good point because we think of things like learning an instrument as optional. My daughter plays the piano beautifully. And I remember when she started learning, I thought, oh, I'm going to learn right along with her. But I didn't keep practicing, but I didn't keep going. And I can't play the piano because I wasn't explicitly taught and I haven't been practicing. And she has.
Mhm.
But I think with reading, because so many people can read, parents and other adults assume it's natural. But I
Mhm.
love that. It's just like an instrument. It's optional. You're not going to learn unless you have this explicit instruction.
Yep, 100%.
And I
And
was
you
just going to say, we have so many families in our program too that come to us saying they were told just wait it out a little bit longer, see if they mature. And we've only ever had people say, I wish I had gotten help for my child sooner. We've never had someone say, I started working with my child too early on
Mhm.
reading skills. We've only ever had people
Mhm.
come and just say, I wish I hadn't listened when I was told to just wait and see. I wish I had jumped in sooner because now the gap is even bigger to try and close. So definitely if you're seeing any red flags at all at the beginning, don't wait and see. It's better to be safe than sorry. Like I say,
100%.
it's not gonna hurt them by giving them extra support.
That is such a good point. No one ever said, wow, I started too early with my child. I'm so bummed that they're such a strong reader.
No way.
Great point. Well, as we wrap up, I would love for you to tell the listeners where they can find you and where they can connect with you online.
Yeah, absolutely. So our Instagram is developing_readers_academy. We chose the longest name we possibly could. I think we maxed out the letters that we could have done on there. Or our website, also developingreadersacademy.com is another place you can reach us. And yeah, if you're ever looking for reading support, we're here. Or if you just want some fun ideas of how to help your kiddos, make sure you're following us, and YouTube as well, Developing Readers Academy. We'd love a follow, and you can watch Miss Buddy be a little crazy and get your kids reading.
Yes. Now, if there is one takeaway that listeners get from this episode, I would love to hear what each of you would like them to remember.
Oh, I like this question. There's so many.
I guess mine would be, like I was saying before, especially for preschool, kindergarten, to not only work on letter recognition, that's so, so important, but also be working on those sounds and words, hearing the sounds and words, breaking them apart, blending them back together is just going to give your child a huge jump going into kindergarten and set them up for success right away.
Definitely. This is hard for me. There's so many takeaways. I would say that literacy is the foundation of all other learning. It really is. As your kids grow, it is such a core part of being a human, is being able to read, write, communicate with others. So it's a skill that it's really important that we do focus on it and we do make sure they're heading in the right direction and we help them when they need help, because it impacts so much of their life beyond just opening a book. It impacts how they feel when they walk into school. It impacts how they feel when they're with their friends, and it's opening or closing doors in their future. So if you're listening as a preschool or kindergarten parent, obviously you're a very dedicated parent. If you're listening to this right now, you're taking your time to learn about your children's education. Keep it up. That's what I'd say to the parents that are listening to this. You're amazing, and keep it up.
Yes, our community is amazing and they care so, so much about their kids.
Yes.
All right, last question, and then I will let you go. Thank you for your time. This is called the Littles Love Learning Podcast. So I would love to know what you love most about working with littles.
Oh, their joy and their fun and I feel like I'm a little kid trapped in my body. So I feel like I just resonate with them and their happiness and joy. That's mine.
I love that.
I just love how they are literally little sponges. They just soak up every bit of information, and it just never ceases to amaze me. The things that they know and they hear, I mean, they're always listening to everything, taking it all in. So, yes, which is
The good or the bad. They hear everything.
No, just that they are still so excited about learning and wanting to learn new things and very open to learning new things. So I think that's really fun.
They are incredible. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything you do for our kids, for our communities. And I know that going forward, we are going to see such a shift in our reading statistics and the confidence of our kids because of accounts like you. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. It was so fun. Thank you for having us.